What's up, everybody? This is my first ever live stream. Super excited to get the connection lost. I think we're back. So this is my first ever live stream. Super excited to be doing this. I've always really wanted to do a hard knocks for entrepreneurship, and I think this is kind of the platform. Sorry about that. So this is the best platform to really show everything that's been going on behind the scenes. And I think there's a couple of inspiration that led to doing this today. First is everything that's happened in Mexico since September. We just kept catching ourselves like saying you just couldn't make this shit up. So thought we could start one, telling the story of what happened in the past, and then two, showing everything that's going on and really building live. And as we get there, like taking calls, doing meetings, and building the business here live on Kick. How I'm going to structure these first couple of streams is that I'm going to spend the first 10 or 15 minutes giving the backstory. So I'm going to start in September and give the first couple of chapters about what happened in Mexico. And then we're going to talk about what we're currently building, including the Fire hotels, the Fire IP deals. And then we'll actually start building live on the next streams as we get everybody all caught up. So just quick update what I do. So I'm the founder of Fire. I spend 80% of my time working to rebuild the Fire brand. The rest of my time, I do marketing work for other companies through an agency called Pirate. And I also do some music stuff for fun through a label I started called BZM Music. So before we get there, and before we talk about what happened with Fire Festival 1 and what happened with Mexico, I need to start by saying I made so many mistakes 8 years ago for the first time building Fire. There were bad decisions that are really hard to comprehend and hard to express why I made them, but they happened. And the inspiration for really doing Fire 2 is to show that I can pay people back, both literally and figuratively, but also really show that I can make the original dream and the original vision come true. So the plan here is to do these live streams through the successful execution of Fire 2. Not sure what exactly my role is going to be in Fire 2, and we'll get into that, and we'll take you guys along for that process live. But first, I want to talk about Fire in Mexico. There are a lot of news reports. I think the irony is the person who quote, scammed from Fire 1 got scammed here in Mexico. And ultimately, I think this is going to make Fire 2 more interesting and certainly adds a lot of hurdles. But we've just been up against such incredible resistance and this tidal wave of media and people. And ultimately, we've just kind of become an easy target. And I want to share this journey and share what it's like going up against everything that we're up against. And of course, I made my own bed and deserve a lot of this. But the ridiculousness of what's happened over the past 9 months, and I think what happens on a daily basis, I really want to show this, like show what's happening, show the people who are working really hard behind the scenes to make this all work, and take you guys along and show you guys how we're going to make Fire 2 happen initially. So let's take this back to last summer. We were on the 10-yard line with the location to sign for Fire 2 when this Wall Street Journal article that had been being worked on for a number of months came out. Let me share my screen. So this story came out September 4th. And I think, like, as this always does, create a ton of inbound and ton of momentum around Fire. And this amazing group of people, including production company, including government resources from Mexico, reached out and pitched us really, really hard on why we should come to Mexico. We had a Today Show interview scheduled for like 5 days, I think, after the Wall Street Journal article came out, talking about what we plan to be the location for Fire 2. So we relayed that to Mexico and kind of used that as our hard deadline. And they gave us everything we thought we ever could have needed to make Fire in Mexico work. So 5 days later, we got the terms of a deal done with Mexico. And I went on national TV on NBC and the Today Show to share the location for Fire 2. So this first location was supposed to be an island off of Cozumel in Mexico called Isla de Pasión. So let me pull up the map. Yeah, so while this is loading, the first location for fire was supposed to be a private island off of Cozumel. We had been going through the process there and really relying on our local partners and local team who were the ones that brought us to Mexico in the first place to make this all happen. So we're kind of deep into the negotiations in Cozumel. It's taking a little bit longer in American time we wanted to take. And I was advised by our local partners to reach out to the national minister of, or sorry, the state minister of tourism for the state of Quintana Roo, where Cozumel and where Isla de Pasión, where it all took place. So what's really interesting here is that I'm just going to do my best to show what actually happened. I think I need to be really careful. There are a lot of great people who worked hard on this, but don't want to throw them under the bus. So I think that people who kind of came out publicly and said, lies publicly and falsehoods publicly are fair game. Everybody else, I'm not going to expose and do my best to protect. So this article came out recently on ABC. This is ABC national news after Fire Festival 2 was postponed. And ABC called Bernardo Cueto, who's a Secretary of Tourism for the state of Quintana Roo. So, and this is like the state for which Isla Mujeres, where we eventually announced Fire Festival 2 to take place, was located. So Bernardo told ABC News over a phone call that his agency, meaning the Secretary of Tourism for Quintana Roo, would be the one giving permission for this kind of festival, but that Fire 2 was not something he was informed about, nor was any event by that name happening in Playa del Carmen or Isla Mujeres. So we'll get to Playa del Carmen. We're starting from the beginning. So we're starting first here with Isla Mujeres and really Cozumel, which predated that. So the Secretary of Tourism for Quintana Roo said that his agency would be the one giving permission for this kind of festival, but that Fire Festival 2 was not something he was informed about. All right, this is not a local news station. This is national ABC News. So let's go back here. Back in November, we had been working through our partners on Cozumel for a couple of months, and they recommended that I reach out to Bernardo Cueto in his official capacity to give him the background about what we were doing for Fire Festival and our plans for Cozumel. I will show you the initial letter that I wrote to Bernardo Cueto, the same guy who told ABC that he had. So here's a letter. I'll read it to you. Dear Mr. Cueto, my name is Billy McFarland, founder of the Fire Festival, a global brand recognized for its approach to events and live entertainment. I write to formally request the support of the Secretary of Tourism for the upcoming festival scheduled for April 25th or April 28th in Cozumel. I went on to describe why we think Cozumel is the ideal location for Fire Festival. So Mr. Cueto's staff responds here, and let me translate the response. And they said it'd be a pleasure to meet Bernardo and our team on Friday, December 6th, Cancun time. So, and they sent a link. So we did a Google Meet with the Secretary of Tourism for the state of Quintana Roo. Once again, the same person that told ABC News that if there was anything happening in Isla Mujeres, that his agency would be the one giving permission for that kind of festival, but he was unaware of it. So we had this meeting. We described what we planned to do on Cozumel, why there were some delays from Cozumel, and asked them for their help. They said to us that they appreciated us trying to do it on Cozumel, and they'd love to welcome Fire, and they'd love to have Fire in Mexico, but it was really important that we did the event in the municipality of Isla Mujeres. So the government, the state tourism department, told us to do the festival in the municipality of Isla Mujeres. Specifically, there is a region of government property called Isla Blanca that they were trying to drive tourism and tourism dollars to, and they asked us to do the festival in this region. Going back to this original email, on the same day, December 6th, after that meeting, there was a site visit conducted on Isla Blanca on the region of Isla Mujeres. And we quickly decided, with the support of our partners and our partners leading, that we would do the event on Isla Blanca and Isla Mujeres. 10 days later, on December 16th, I will share a new document. The Secretary of Tourism and the Ministry of Tourism for the state issued us the first permit for Fire Festival. So once again, the person who claimed that his department would be the one who knew about Fire Festival and if it was real, but they had never heard of it, they issued us a permit December 16th after asking us to do the event in the municipality of Isla Mujeres, specifically this Costa Mujeres region where Isla Blanca was, right? It clearly says this is for Fire Festival 2. It mentions me as the CEO of Fire. It mentions some of our local partners, signed, stamped, dated, everything. And they said here, and then let's go to a translation of this. We can pull up a translation. Let's ask ChatGPT to translate this document exactly. They said to civil and military authorities, they're instructing their authorities to help us not only with the documentary, which is the oversight of the Secretary of Tourism, but clearly the Fire Festival 2, which is targeted to take place in the municipality of Isla Mujeres at the end of April. Production dates here, all clearly outlined by this permit. So the craziest thing is that this guy says, if fire was real, his agency would be the one giving permission, but Fire Festival 2 is not something he was informed about. Meanwhile, I have 38 emails with this person, 5 different calendar invites for Google Meets. My team did multiple in-person meetings, and we have a signed permit from them. I think the kicker here is that we've been filming a documentary the entire time. A lot of these meetings, these conversations, like in-person meetings, site visits, Google Meets, these are all part of our documentary. We literally have these officials asking us to come to the municipality of Isla Mujeres and giving us the permits. I'm just like, I don't know how else to describe this. The person goes on ABC News, says he's never heard of fire, and his office would be the one to hear of it. Not only has he heard of fire, they asked us to come to Isla Mujeres. They gave us the permits, and they assisted with the entire process. It got to the point where they were involving various levels of government to make Fire Festival happen within this municipality of Isla Mujeres. On January 22nd, our team had submitted a proposal to the environmental agency for their permits, which also included the proposal going to the Secretary of Tourism and the Secretary of Tourism's office. In this, they explain all the details of the event, the number of people, the date, what exactly is taking place. And we even give a full site plan, stage designs, everything for like where fire is going to take place, how it's going to be built. This is all on Isla Blanca, which is government land. So the government asked us to come do the festival on the government land in the municipality of Isla Mujeres. Okay, let me keep going. So let me translate this document real quick. Okay, so this is just a translation of that exact permit that was submitted to the ecology department as well as tourism. And in this that was submitted by our production team, it clearly said, and this is also sent to the Secretary of Tourism, we are pleased to inform you that we have the support of the Quintana Roo State Secretary of Tourism and the Costa Mujeres Hotel Association, which have shown strong commitment to the collaboration of this event, which will undoubtedly contribute significantly to the region's tourism and economic development. So we are sending this letter to tourism, also stating about their support because it's going to other groups here, including FEMAT, which is the Ecology Environmental Division, and shows the entire size, all the details, the production, the safety plan, the sustainability, and even the site plan for the festival. So really, really interesting that the guy who goes to ABC News and creates this viral media wave saying that he has never heard of fire, and if fire was real, that his office would be aware of it. When I have 38 emails with this person and his team, multiple Google meetings, multiple in-person meetings that my team was there. I was not there. Those meetings were happening in place in Mexico. Permits issued, numerous other permits that he was CC'd on. And guys, the craziest part is we've been filming a documentary. So like these meetings, they're not just a copy of the calendar invite. We have footage of all these meetings and the government literally asking us to come to Isla Mujeres in Mexico. So what happens now is we're at the end of December, we're in January, and we are planning on doing Isla Blanca in the Isla Mujeres region of Mexico, and things really start to get crazy. I'm going to cut off now for this first part of Mexico, and start moving on to where we are with the Fire brand and the Fire hotels and everything else they're working on. But really wanted to focus on like the ridiculousness of what happened here. And to recap, we've been filming a documentary this entire time. So we have all of this, we have the permits, and it's just like so insane that someone in their official position could go on international media and say they have never heard of us when there have been dozens of meetings, permits, emails, phone calls, and footage of all this. So that's the start of the absolute insanity of Mexico. So now I want to take you back to where we are a little bit today. So after the failure in Mexico, we announced that the Fire IP was up for sale. And the reasoning and thought process here was that we need a bigger group and we need support behind us to prevent this from happening again. After the Isla Mujeres situation happened in Mexico, the government of Playa del Carmen reached out to us and also pitched us to come there, which we will show, and that gets even crazier and more ridiculous. But before we do that, we were getting pitched now by numerous other locations after seeing what happened in Mexico. And the idea was that a lot of tourism directors, a lot of mayors, governors of different Caribbean countries and islands thought that Fire could be a great way to drive tourism to the region. For all the failures of the first Fire Festival, the bump in tourism that the Exumas has received, and I think the sustainable bump that they've received since Fire has really been incredible. And that's an attractive proposition to a lot of these places. So while we'd love to do this, I just couldn't take the same risk again, where I partner with a country, everything seems great, and then we announce it, right? And the problem with announcing it is that the media calls. Right now, the New York Times calling their family, ABC is calling their family, and all of a sudden, these tourism directors or these mayors, these governors, they just don't have the wherewithal of how to handle the media, and they result in something that they think is just going to get it off their desk by saying, "Oh, like we've never heard of Billy, we've never heard of Fire," and then not understanding the consequences for saying a lie. I think the consequences on my freedom, the consequences on my dozens of team members and partners who have been busting their ass on this, and the consequences for the restitution that we've been paying and generating from building Fire and from building the brand. So before we go ahead and announce anything like that on the scale of Fire 2, we need that larger support. We're having conversations with people across the board, and we're going to start airing and streaming those conversations as we're allowed, over the next couple of weeks. But to start, one really interesting deal came in through all of this, and that was a small island off the coast of mainland Honduras called Utila. So the mayor of Utila, Mayor Alex Ebanks, and a local hotelier who's an expat and former New Yorker named Heath Miller, they reached out, and Heath has a 24-room hotel on Utila, and he pitched us on doing a small pop-up at his hotel where we bring back these initial trips that really started Fire and Fire Festival. So I want to take this all back to now 2013. I'm going to, fast forward a little bit and talk about how the idea of Fire Festival really happened and where it all came from. So back in 2013, it's tough to look at some of these pictures. So back in 2013, Magnesis, a company I had prior to Fire, we had a members group built upon this like credit card copy, and we had a townhouse in the West Village of Manhattan. So I just Googled Magnesis townhouse, and here are some of the pictures. It was like this small 2-story townhouse in the West Village. Interesting spot, but it was really kind of about giving all the members and customers and cardholders a place to come and use their Magnesis cards. I was like at my apartment one night, and we had a front desk team, and the front desk team called me pretty late on a Friday night saying that there's a Google engineer who just walked in who seems like a genius, but he's also a hobbyist pilot, and he wants to teach you how to fly his plane. And our townhouse, check-in person was like, "Hey, like this guy seems real. You got to come. He seems super interesting." So ran over there, and, went and met this guy who turned out to be a longtime friend, super close to this day. And he owned this plane called a Cirrus SR-22. So let me show you this plane. So he owned this like little 4-seater airplane. And what makes the SR-22 so unique is that I think it's the only propeller plane that has a parachute that shoots out of the entire plane. So there's like a handle in the front middle of the plane. You can literally pull a handle and the parachute just pops out of the top of the Cirrus and the whole plane, gets taken to the ground by the parachute. So he owned this little plane. I think the plane is really famous for short trips. And he pitched me on the idea of taking 4 people to the Bahamas from New York City on the SR-22. So we did this. We took 2 people, 2 Magnesis members, the pilot and me, and we flew the plane from New York City to the Outer Banks, where we refueled, slept in our other friend's RV, who's also a pilot, and then flew from the Outer Banks to the Bahamas. I think we initially planned to go to Eleuthera in the Bahamas. Let me see if I can pull the map up here. Eleuthera. So we originally planned to go to Eleuthera in the Bahamas, but at some point along the way, I think we misjudged or whatever it was and decided to go to a little island called Norman's Key in the Exuma chain in the Bahamas. I had never been to Norman's Key. I had never heard of Norman's Key, but after going, I watched that movie Blow, where the famous Johnny Depp scene is where he lands. They land the plane in Norman's Key, being like Carlos Slater and Pablo Escobar's group. So the 4 of us landed in Norman's Key in this little ass plane and didn't really know what to do. And there was a small little development of 6 cottages at the time. So my buddy who was a pilot goes, "No problem. We just have to wake them up." I'm like, "What do you mean wake them up?" So he circles over the cottages a bunch of time, like flying a couple hundred feet in the air. And then we land on the remote airstrip. And all of a sudden we see the little golf cart coming and we woke the guy up from the cottage and he came and picked us up. So the 4 of us just had like the best weekend, or at least the best weekend of my life, where we were on this remote island. There were 6 cottages, I think maybe 3 full-time residents at this point on Norman's Key, and just couldn't have had a better trip. We spent the weekend spearfishing, island hopping on the boats, going to nearby little rundown bars and other islands. And really, this is 2013, and really felt like we stumbled upon this crown jewel, in the Exuma chain of the Bahamas. Over the years, these trips started growing. This is back in 2013, years before fire, and just randomly clicking photos right now. Not even sure what I'm pulling up, but these trips started growing, and they went from 4 of us on this plane to now dozens and then eventually hundreds of people over the years. And it was on one of these trips where one of my childhood friends was with me. And he said, "You should totally do a music festival here for all of the Magnesis cardholders." So it went from these 4-person trips that were taking a little airplane up to hundreds of people. And then eventually the idea for Fire Festival was born. But before Fire Festival took place and before we announced it or launched it, we were doing these trips almost every other weekend to the outer islands of the Bahamas. And the initial dream was to have a permanent fire hotel where we could share what was happening with the world, what was going on in these trips. So in some weird way, once Heath and the mayor reached out to me from Utila and talked about doing a hotel pop-up for 7 days in September, this kind of took us back to where it all started with fire. And the idea for the hotel is a weekend that's really rooted in different kind of adventures and different daily experiences. We have, for example, we have a professional volleyball player who's going to host beach volleyball. We have 2 professional shark divers who are going to host daily diving trips. I think we're getting a professional pickleball player. So it's really all about the different adventure hosts coming together to really kind of create and offer this weekend experience. I'm going to try to bring on Heath now so he can show you live from the island in Utila what it looks like. Let me a second. Yeah, I'm on stream. Come on stream. I'm on the stream. I just sent you a link. Can you join? All right. Thanks, man. All right. Yeah. So before Heath joins us, guys, I just want to like really dive into like why this is so different for Fire. This Utila pop-up, this is not the yacht. This is like the rowboat, right? The rowboat with holes in it. But these are like, it's authentic and it's pure to what Fire meant to me and how it all started. And that's why I'm so excited about this. It's, you know, affordable. The rooms start at $199 a night. And so it's not about luxury. This is about 24 different rooms, some 50-ish people coming together to an island that needs some development, but really is naturally beautiful and kind of just getting under our belt and taking Fire back to where it all started. So let me add in Heath. Hey, what's up, Heath?
Hey, Billy, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Heath, what's going on? Background about the Fire hotels.
About my headphones.
After seeing the IP going for sale and what the plan is. It'd be cool if you could talk a little bit about your music background and give a tour of the property and show what you guys are doing.
Yeah, hold on a second. I got to apparently get my earbuds because this Restream app is not working that good on the headphones. Without the headphones. Let me call you back in 1 second. Sorry.
Yep. Guys, first time doing this, give Heath a second. Just pull up the comments. So just checking out some of the comments and questions. Billy, you have to wait until mañana. Yeah, I think as we get into more of the Mexico stuff, it's funny.
Hey, Billy. Can you hear me now?
Yep. Yeah, I'd love to show this stream. But once again, first time doing this stream, Heath. So I'd love to show everybody the property. Keith's on site now at Coral View in Utila, which is the home for the Fire Festival pop-up in September.
Can you hear me right now?
Yep.
It's still not going to the headset though. You want to just try this over WhatsApp? Can you do a screen share of the WhatsApp?
And give us a tour and talk. I can hear you. Yo, Kino, can I grab a Coke? Diet Coke? Thanks. Thank you. Hey, we got you. Yeah.
All righty, technology. Hey, Billy, so how are you doing in New York today? How's the weather there?
Not as good as we are. So I want to show everybody the property. And once again, first time doing this live stream. Heath is on the ground at Coral View in Utila. We're doing the week-long pop-up. Heath had reached out with the mayor when he saw the brand on sale and really wanted to do fire, bring it to life. We decided to do it on a really small scale first for a week in September 3rd through the 10th. It's 24 rooms, so approximately 50 people can fit at Keith's Hotel. The idea is activities during the day and then some music at night. We have 2 shark divers who are going to be hosting. We have a pro volleyball player. I think we're booking a pro pickleball player. And Heath is working on some music artists now. Heath has a background in music in New York, who moved from New York and now lives in Utila full time. I think, Heath, if you could talk a little bit about your music background for a couple minutes and then show us all the property and what improvements you guys are making and like where we are.
Sure, no problem. So, I mean, I started working in music really when I was in high school. Some of the first people I worked with luckily got pretty successful in their careers. But after booking shows throughout from high school into college, I started in later years booking Webster Hall in New York, and I booked there for about 8-9 years almost. And that's actually where Billy and I met first through. But I've worked with some of the biggest bands and some of the smallest bands in the world, including like the first person to book Fall Out Boy in New York City. Worked with Metallica once, Skrillex before he was Skrillex, when he was just Sonny Moore in the band from first to last. And Billy and I met at an Action Bronson show at Space in 2015. We worked together a little at Webster Hall doing some VIP packages with Magnesis customers, and he always paid us. So I'm willing to hope that he is a man of his word then. And, you know, we are in for a good fire festival related event in this September. So right now we've been doing some initial repairs that we do anyway, but we're expediting some repairs. Let me flip the camera around here. You can see we were just finishing the inside of our pool here. That is nice and freshly painted. And we got one more coat that's going on tomorrow after this one dries. So we're camera ready for our upcoming documentary on fire. And over there you can see the hotel in general.
Heath, could you do like the walks in the rooms to the beach, or the walks like?
Sure. Well, here let's start up actually over here, since this is a good view over here.
Well, at least we know it's off the grid, given his Wi-Fi issues.
You see me now?
Yes.
So this is the reef that's right in front of the hotel. You go over here and you can get a bit of finishing. Then we have another little beach area over there, as well as in that corner with all the trees over there. Not a bad front yard, right?
So Heath, where is Water Key exactly, and how do people get there, and what are we going to be doing? Just want to describe that a little bit.
Okay, so for Water Key, all the way on that side of the hotel is the lagoon where we park the boats, and you go around that way to Water Key. And it's about a 15-minute boat ride on one of the many boats or one of our boats on the island. Here, let me flip back around here. So it's a pretty windy day here, but the wind is great because it keeps away the mosquitoes.
So the idea is that we're going to, wake up in the morning. Everybody does some kind of activity. We're going to have, shark diving. We have ATVing, hiking, pickleball, volleyball, and there's a different professional who's hosting every activity. So hopefully every day we do one or two different activities. We have a nearby really small private island that we're renting for a couple of days, and we'll have music there at night. We will be announcing the hosts and the first 2 or 3 artists soon. I think we have 5 hosts assigned so far, and those are the adventure hosts. And yeah, really just want to get people out of the office, out of New York, out of LA, just do something new, meet 50 other people who are kind of game for this weekend. We're not really sure what's going to happen, and go try some new activities and push the limits a little bit.
So literally, like right in these stairs over here, you can just wake up and snorkel or scuba dive at any pretty much hour. Like if you want to go for a night dive, we rent flashlights too, and people could just like literally go snorkeling off here almost any hour.
Talk about Utilis diving and what you guys are known for, and what kind of marine life or sharks we can expect to see in September.
Sure. So in September, we're at the tail end of whale shark season. So unknown if we'll actually see whale sharks in September. That's all the times a year this year. But the patterns have changed, so they do stay later now than they used to and come later. It used to be more March through July was whale shark season, and now it's more shifted. That starts in May, which has been good in this scenario. But I can walk all the way to the back. I'll show you guys some of our boats back there in the lagoon back there. So all our boats are stored in the lagoon here to protect them from the weather. And you don't dive in the lagoon, but you can kayak in the lagoon. You have a couple different options of places that you'll be able to kayak to, from the North Shore side of Utila or over to Neptune's, which is one of the other bar restaurants, private beaches on the island. For the really adventurous, don't be that adventurous on this trip. We don't want to lose anyone at sea. Those are in the canals and in the lagoon area, so we know someone's not getting washed out to sea that's an inexperienced kayaker, because we don't want that on Good Morning America.
Thanks, Heath. So for our next
so right now,
love if we can take people.
So right now, yeah, no, I'm walking right now to the boat right now. So walking from the boat to there is literally a 2-minute walk.
And the next time, I'd love to go from the boat to Water Key and show the island of Water Key as well.
Walk a little quicker.
Making them work.
Now I feel like you're doing your running videos in New York where you're always in a rush. We're on island time here.
I love how every time I do the video, the #1 comment people just say is I'm homeless. So I think I'm going to keep it up.
All right, I'm flipping the camera around now. All right, so we got one boat that's just dry docked right now, but that's an older boat that's not actually ours, that's in use. But here's one of our dive boats. And the other dive boats. I'm going to bring you over. It looks like some customers. Easy.
Heath, we lost him.
Giant stride. Oh. Am I back, Billy?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just switching Wi-Fi points probably from going to the backyard. So yeah, we got some new speakers on order. They're going to replace our little speakers over here with some bigger speakers, so we're more ready for the party. And we always can throw extra speakers over here, so everyone can have a loud and fun boat ride to their dives or to Water Key, wherever we're carting off to that day. Then we got some of our kayaks over here, just for you guys. I like to show that the kayaks exist because fire is apparently real, even though contrary to a lot of people's public belief that the hotel is actually real and not a made-up hotel or AI. Because it gets banged up on the dock with the affected beautiful lagoon. It's called the oyster bed lagoon. There are unfortunately minimal oysters here nowadays, so we don't get to eat the oysters here. That would not be responsible.
Are we going to be in lobster season in September, or are we outside of it?
I believe we are in lobster season. I know we're not in lobster season now. So when we're not in lobster season, we usually do still have lobster sale, but unfortunately we have to buy it and freeze it before the season ends.
But in September, we could dive, catch our own lobster, then you guys could grill it for us on the beach.
We'll have a lobster fisherman do it because I believe you need a permit to fish for lobster. Even though there's definitely people here that do it, but Billy, remember the number one goal is Billy does not go back to jail.
I'm bored with that.
Turn for you to go to jail for illegal lobstering. It'd be definitely a Seinfeld episode and a half. But yeah, let's not go that route. But yeah, and then some of these boats aren't ours. This one actually isn't ours, but this is someone else that parks their boat with us. But it's also good for, we always have a spare boat if something goes wrong. And with boats, you have to plan for the worst. You don't want your boat to sink. This is one of our older boats also, which is still in service. But this is our backup boat and our secondary boat for when we have bigger groups. And this one holds, I think, 16 or 18 people. This one needs a coat of paint too, because those dive tanks, you can tell where they get into the wall and stuff like that. Things take a beating here. That's a nicer boat also that's here that just got finished being refurbished. But yeah, this is Utila, guys.
Thanks, Heath. And I'm not going to give away everything, but just kind of show you a little example here. We're working on the talent announcements. The talent's coming soon. Here's one of the volleyball players that's booked to lead beach volleyball. So, that's going to be dropped in the next week or two. So yeah, thank you, Heath. I think next time we'd love to take people to Water Key in the stream. Let's have Mayor Alex come on, talk a little bit about Utila as well. And I think the attention we're providing there. And I think if you can keep people updated too about what you're actually building, your physical updates, that would be great. And for everybody watching, this is not the luxurious, fire festival. This is a start and a return to the original trips.
Right now we're getting a couple quotes and other things. Some of it.
Okay, thank you, Heath. And so, guys, that's kind of bringing you up to speed about what we're doing with Fire Hotels. I plan to announce the hosts and some of the lineup live on the next stream. And yeah, today was about setting the stage for what these streams are going to do. And that's telling the story of everything that happened since Fire 1 up until today. I skipped a lot of it to start with September in Mexico, part of the Mexico story in the next live stream. And then after we go through and finish Mexico, we'll go back to 2019, the initial documentaries. I'll watch them for the first time on stream. I'll talk about everything that happened in jail, getting released from jail, rebuilding Fire up until Mexico. Obviously, we'll cover all of that first. And then we'll start working live on here. That first project is the Fire Hotels we talked about. It's also the IP sale, the brand sale that we're exploring. We'll do some of those conversations. And I guess one more piece of news to get everybody caught up to date is we did do an IP license for a Fire music platform. Let me see if Sean can come on for this real quick. I'll give him a minute. I texted him to come on. He said he's going to hop on. So yeah, there were two, I think two early licensing deals that we want to talk about. One was the Fire Hotels. The second is Fire Music. And here's Sean. Sean, what's going on?
Hey, Billy, how are you?
Good. So Sean is the founder of the True Blue Network with Chris Hansen. I actually went to Cleveland a couple of weeks ago to film some spots with Sean, and he's got a massive television film studio. And True Blue has been wildly successful. I wore the True Blue t-shirt when I left the office on the way to the airport, and my Uber driver and then 2 of the TSA agents at the airport both were geeking out over True Blue. So I didn't give Sean enough credit until those 3 things happened. So Sean, thanks for coming on. I have not told the audience at all about Fire Music. I just kind of explained the Fire different brand sales and IP deals we're considering and working on, and that you're building a Fire Music platform. So floor is yours, and love to you to give the background on what you're building.
Yeah, the worst thing about the music industry over the years is that there were tastemakers. There were people in control, little old men who decided, yes, you're going to make it, or no, you're not going to have a career. They also terribly took advantage of people in every way you can think of, who were dying to get into the record business. And you can see now as things come out in trial what people have gone through trying to get recognition. And I think that music curation needs to be democratized. And so I think that fans need to decide who's going to make it. And we're creating an app and a channel, kind of like the old MTV, but it's curated by the fans, which means that artists put their work on there and they're upvoted. And that's kind of like the democratization of who's going to make it. And if people reach a certain plateau, they're going to be offered record deals or distribution deals. It's changing every month in this business, but this just gets them in the spotlight. And we can't announce how yet, but we got a very unique way for people to monetize on this site, and a very generous monetization plan that we'll announce closer to launch.
Not bad. Thank you, Sean. Do you want to discuss True Blue too and what you've built and your platform there?
Sure. During after the killing of George Floyd, or death of George Floyd, Hollywood, in typical Hollywood fashion, was being pressured to recognize the voices of people of color. And instead of taking some money and empowering young filmmakers of color to go out and create content, they just canceled cop shows and said, see, we fixed it. And they canceled, like A&E canceled Live PD. That was, I believe, was 51% of their income. They just kissed goodbye because they were trying to appease people in a quick way, not in a very thoughtful way. And they canceled very popular programming. And one show that was canceled long before that was To Catch a Predator. And it was probably that and First 48 were my first, my favorite crime shows. So I knew Chris Hansen from making the movie White Boy. And because he is a Detroit reporter, I believe, named White Boy Rick. And I knew him and saw that Crime Watch Daily was canceled, which he hosted and which I was on every now and then. And I said, Chris, let's organize this. Let's create our own network so you're not going to cancel yourself. And that's what we've done with True Blue. And it's got a lot of content besides these Predator stings. We call the show Takedown with Chris Hansen. And the stings are crazy. The people we're catching are way worse than you used to see on To Catch a Predator. There are people trying to buy kids off their parents and off their step parents. It's just so gross. And if it's happening in our stings, it's probably happening out in the real world. So, and there's so many more means for people to reach kids. So I think that this show is extremely important. And we built a whole network around it. If you go to watchtruBLU.com, there's 14 seasons now of episodes of new stings, these really crazy ones. And we put a lot of the old ones on YouTube for free. So if you go to the True Blue channel, TRUBLU, on YouTube, you will also find the old episodes for free, and you can get a kind of a taste of what the show's like now.
Thanks, Sean. And then I know we've been talking a lot internally about the future of Fire and Fire Festival. Do you want to share any of the media reports or the earned media numbers publicly that you guys have been looking at? I think it'd be kind of cool to add some context.
No, we had a
Fire
study done, and the brand, of course, the brand has about $250 million in brand recognition, but let's be honest, it's all with negative sentiment. Okay. So until something goes really well under that name, there will be negative, there'll be negative sentiment attached to it. So the bad news is everybody thinks whatever it touches is going to fail, and they want to see it fail. The good news is they want to see it. So the whole idea is at least they're going to watch, and they're going to see some, I think a little bit of redemption for you, and they're going to see a very, very, very cool channel and app for music, and something that I think is going to be pretty exciting for musicians and fans alike.
Sean, the reason why I did this stream and why I'm going to start doing these streams is I want to show the crazy tidal wave of kind of that we're up against in terms of people rooting for us to fail. Sorry, right? Whether it's publicly or privately or out of their own self-preservation or self-interest. I talked a little bit today about what happened in Mexico. I gave the first couple of chapters, and I highlighted where the state secretary of tourism had said, if fire was real, his office would have heard about it, but they never have. And I showed 38 emails with him, permits from him, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of just this wild journey where we could post something to Instagram and we create a mainstream media, news moment where it's covered by dozens of outlets. But at the same time, the sentiment amongst, however many millions of people who have been aware of the brand is they want to see it fail, and they'll actively try to make it fail. So I'm hoping to provide some kind of behind the scenes and real-time content here as we fight against that, try to stay true to what we believe we can do with the brand and make it all happen. And of course, work with people like you who are in charge and are successful and making sure things work out properly.
Yeah, we've done this before. It's just music instead of crime, or instead of our Christian network, AGTV. It's popular music. It's just, but we've done this before, and we know what we're doing. It's going to happen. It's going to be really, really cool.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks for coming on. And I'm going to wrap up here in the first stream. So thank you, guys. Next stream, I'll start telling the additional Mexico chapters, get into more of that, and then we'll be working live as we work to rebuild the Fire brand. So have a great day.